Hello and welcome to another edition of the Stench of Truth. I have a lot to say and not a lot of time to say it. Please excuse me, I'm not feeling well today. So if I cough or sneeze or anything like that, I hope you'll bear with me. I wanted to talk about healthcare reform, the consumer finance protection legislation that Obama wants to pass, and immigration reform. Three very big issues that are quietly making their way into the news. As far as healthcare reform goes, there is no healthcare reform. Single-payer healthcare has been virtually taken completely out of the discussion. It's not even included for consideration, which in and of itself should tell you that there is no real reform being planned for the healthcare industry. Also, it appears as though a public healthcare plan that would be in competition with private health insurers has also been completely taken off the table. So having an option in that regard has been removed, so that all of the private insurers can be assured that every single person will have to use their services. Also noted that in a way to try and supposedly contain the cost of the exorbitant fucking price of pharmaceuticals in this country, Medicaid has apparently negotiated a deal with the pharmaceutical industry in order to have the price of prescription drugs reduced to Medicare recipients. Now, I want to note something that's very important here. Okay, first off, as far as pharmaceuticals go in this country, we are being fucking raped. The pharmaceutical industry is living off of us like fucking leeches. Okay? And yet there are a lot of people in this country who cannot afford very basic medication that they need in order to function normally. Okay? So what does the government do? Instead of mandating fucking lower prices for prescription drugs, because Medicare is one of the largest purchaser of drugs, couldn't they by rights negotiate lower terms according to their volume? Certainly they could. And certainly the federal government could impose limits on the amount of money that insurance or pharmaceutical companies could charge for their fucking drugs. But they won't. Instead, what we get is this fucking bullshit. The pharmaceutical industry has voluntarily agreed to provide drugs to Medicare recipients at a lower cost, to give supposed savings to provide for Obama's supposed health care reform. It's a voluntary effort on their part. So let me ask you, if you went out to a company that was making 40 bajillion motherfucking dollars, absolutely raping the consumer, and you said, well, what do you think? You want to come on my committee and maybe you could come up with some ways to help us out a little bit? Oh, gee, $80 billion in savings. Wow, I guess that sounds good, just saying it out in the blue like that, but $80 billion in savings in a trillion-dollar industry doesn't really sound like all that much. You know, it's just like saying, well, why don't you voluntarily reduce your price? So instead of making 10,000% profit on your fucking drugs, you only make 9,000% profit on your drugs. So there, you voluntarily helped out. Don't you feel a lot better now? This is the great problem with any reform that Obama wants to implement with healthcare. because he has the very people who have been systematically fucking the people in this country for years. The HMOs, the private insurance companies, and the pharmaceutical industries in on the fucking reform. And any reform that is going to take place is going to completely leave out all of those key issues that have to be addressed. And that is affordability, is to reduce ridiculous fucking costs associated with healthcare. There is no reason in the world why someone being covered by a decent policy should have to pay as much as $12,000 or $15,000 fucking dollars a year for insurance when they may not even use any of it during that period of time. And then have to face a rate increase if they do use the fucking insurance that they pay for. None of this stuff is going to change. You can guarantee it. Healthcare reform is a fucking sham, just like everything else. So we look at the Consumer Finance Protection Agency. He wants to have a watchdog group put up to help protect consumers against abusive lending practices and things like this, with regulators in charge of looking over it. Well, there's a great deal of shortness in details here. What exactly is it going to do? Is it going to have any authority to tell a credit card company that they can't charge a specific rate? Well, they had their opportunity whenever they passed this so-called credit card reform bill earlier this year, which is nothing but a pablum and nothing but a fucking band-aid on a vast fucking festering wound. Because if they really wanted to enact any kind of real change that would help people in this fucking country, they would have went back to adopting usury laws, which have been off the books for years. Instead, credit card companies are still free to charge whatever fucking rate they feel like it, and to raise your rates anytime they feel like it. The only thing the new regulations would require is that they give you a reasonable period of time ahead of time to let you know that you're going to be further fucked by them. So where's the reform? It's all a sham. It's a sham. It's great soundbite, but when you look at it, there's nothing there. It's an empty fucking folder. And immigration reform. Well, this is nothing but disguised amnesty. And Obama says, oh, these people who are here illegally, they should have to pay a penalty before they acquire citizenship. Well, what does that mean? Well, what kind of penalty? Is that a monetary thing? They've committed a crime. What's the appropriate penalty for that? What is the penalty that he's going to propose? What's the penalty, if any, that's going to be enacted? And then he says that these people have to move to the back of the line, quote unquote, behind those people who are here legally. What does that mean exactly? Will it have any force? Will it have any practical purpose in the grand scheme of things? And if these people are here and they are actually working and they have jobs, and then they're required to pay taxes and contribute to their economies and what have you, that's one thing. But what about all of the people who are here illegally, have illegal jobs, make money under the table that's not even reported? How is that going to affect our economy? If you have a method by which these people can become legal citizens and they continue to operate in the underground economy, then you've done nothing but reward a criminal for his behavior. So how can you justify that? So there are 3 reform efforts by Obama that are going to turn into a big sack of shit. No real reform. Just more promises with no substance. Thank you. Good night.